Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is CA Pranjal Agrawal, and I welcome you all on behalf of our entire team of CJ Legal to this CJ Legal Live Meet. CJ Legal is a platform whereby we bring to our subscribers the detailed analysis of various qualitative aspects of GST through our newsletters and webinars. As we all know, GST law is subject to continuous changes. Every now and then, the government brings up certain changes under GST laws, whether these changes are made by way of GST Council meetings or by through a union budget. So, in order to analyze such changes in detail and suggest immediate actionable for the industry, CJ Legal is organizing its webinar series CJ Legal GST Meet Latest Development under GST. The deliberation will be taken by CA Chitresh Gupta along with team CJ Legal. CA Chitresh Gupta is a senior member of CJ Legal, having vast knowledge and experience into indirect taxation. The deliberation will be followed by the question answer session, which will be jointly taken by CA Chitresh Gupta sir and CA Shilpi ma'am. If anyone wishes to ask question in between of the deliberation, you may please type your question in the chat box. So now I invite CA Chitresh Gupta sir to start his deliberation.
Good afternoon, all of you. I welcome you all in this webinar, CJ Legal Meet. So I'm just going to share my presentation. I hope my screen is visible to everybody. Pranjal?
Yes, sir. The screen is visible now.
Yeah. So, sir, lot of changes has been made in GST in day and out. And first we have the budget 2013 on 1st of Feb 2023. Then there was some amendment which were made in the budget which has been presented in Lok Sabha. And when it was passed, there were certain changes which has been made at the time of passing the uh, budget in Lok Sabha. And now that budget has actually assented by the president and has become the Finance Act 2023. So, friends, I'll be covering the snapshot of the changes which has been made in the budget 2023, and that will be followed by the notification which has been issued recently on 31st March 2023. And then my team member Pranjal will be dealing with the actionable for business to kickstart financial year 2023-24. So let's start with changes which has been made in goods and service tax amendment as per Finance Act 2023. So friends, I will not be going into too much detail into the changes because these changes has been made in the budget, and the budget was presented on the 1st Feb 2023. So by this time now it is quite older than more than 2 years old now, 2 months old now. So lot many changes you must have already studied. So I'm just giving you the snapshot of the changes which has been made in by Finance Act 2023. First is composition dealer allowed to supply goods through electronic commerce operators. So sir, अगर हम recall करें तो one of the condition for taking composition scheme was that the composition dealer cannot supply goods through e-commerce operators. Now this restriction has been removed, and after this change has been notified, the composition dealer will be allowed to supply goods through electronic commerce operators. तो सर यहाँ पर एक चीज नोट करने वाली ये है, दिस चेंज हैज बीन मेड ओनली इन केस ऑफ सप्लाई ऑफ गुड्स and it is not applicable for supply of services. Further, one more aspect to be noted here is that if you opt for the composition, you cannot make interstate supply of goods or services. So even though the composition dealer is allowed to supply goods through e-commerce operators, but the composition dealer cannot make the interstate supply of goods because this condition is still there in section 10. The another change is proportionate reversal of ITC in case of non-payment to supplier within 180 days. So, sir, if you read the section earlier, uh, it was written in the section if the recipient fails to make the payment to the supplier within 180 days from the date of issue of invoice, so in that case, the ITC availed by him is required to be added in the output tax liability of the recipient. Uh, it was written in the law in the section 16, but because practically it was not happening and the old system of returns GSTR 2 and GSTR 3 has not been implemented. Now the government felt there is a need to remove that word to be added into the output tax liability. So they have just made the clarificatory amendment in section 16, and now they say the if the recipient fails to make the payment to the supplier within 180 days from the date of issue of invoice, in that case, the ITC avail needs to be paid along with interest. So it means you need to reverse the ITC along with interest. The third is no ITC on CSR activities. So CSR has a corporate social responsibilities. So sir, अगर हम Companies Act में देखें, under Section 135 of the Companies Act, certain specified companies are required to contribute certain percentage of their profit for corporate social responsibility, and it is an obligation on the part of the company to do the CSR activities. So there was a debate whether the ITC of the expenditure which has been incurred on CSR activities will be available or not. The one view was that since the expenditure is obligatory in nature and it has to be incurred as per the Companies Act, so it is not the option of the company. So ITC should be allowed in such cases. So now, in order to remove the anomaly, this Finance Act 2023 has inserted a new clause in section 17 subsection 5 which deals with the block credit to disallow the ITC on CSR activities. But friends, you can note that this clause has been inserted prospectively with effect from the date of the notification of this provision. This provision has not been notified yet, but whenever this provision will be notified, this provision will be applicable from the prospective effect. So now the question which comes in everybody's mind, what will happen to the period prior to the notification of this subclause? So sir, in my view, when a specific clause has been added and it is applicable prospectively, so in the earlier period, there may be a chance to claim the ITC on CSR activities. Although it may be debated by the GST authorities, but we have a sound case and sound and fightable case, and we can claim the ITC on CSR activities. The another change is statement or return cannot be filed beyond 3 years from the due date. तो सर अभी हम presently GST law की बात करें तो there was no outer time limit for filing of various statement or returns under GST law like GSTR 1, 3B, 4, 6, 9 and GSTR 8. So we can file the return anytime. We just need to pay the late fees and we can file the returns. But now the Finance Act 2023 has amended the relevant provision of the law, and they said that the various statement and returns cannot be filed beyond 3 years from the due date. So GSTR 1, 3B, GSTR 4, GSTR 6, GSTR 9 and GSTR 8 will not be allowed to be filed after the 3 years from the due date. So this is the change. Further, the CBIC has the power and they have given the enabling provision in the act. If the government thinks to extend this time limit, so they can extend this time limit subject to certain condition and restriction for a registered person or class of registered persons. Now another change is earlier there was no specific penalty for e-commerce operators. Now the specific penalty provision has been incorporated in the CGST Act for e-commerce operators also. And these are very stringent provisions. Another change is in section 132 and it has been made to decriminalize the offense and to increase the monetary threshold for launching prosecution for the offenses from 1 crore to 2 crore. except for the offences related to issuance of invoices without supply of goods or services or both. Meaning there पे जो थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट मॉनेटरी थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट बढ़ाई गई है वो और ऑफेंसेस के लिए बढ़ाई गई है, बट उसमें जो ऑफेंस है रिलेटेड टू इशुएंस ऑफ इनवॉइस विदाउट सप्लाई ऑफ गुड्स और सर्विसेज कवर नहीं होता, तो उसके लिए जो है पुरानी लिमिट ही एप्लीकेबल रहेगी. Then section 158A in the CGST Act is being inserted so as to provide for prescribing the manner and condition for sharing of information furnished by registered person. So now we have a specific section under section 158A wherein the authorities can share the information, available information of the registered person with another person with the consent of that registered person. Now, the changes has been made in the definition of non-taxable online recipient and online information and database access or retrieval services. So the definition of online taxable recipient and online information and database access or retrieval services has been widened, and the scope has been widened manifold. And if anybody is covered in these definition, they need to assess whether their services are covered or not, and the scope has been enlarged in the Finance Act 2023. The another change is omission of proviso to section 12 subsection 8, which deals with determination of place of supply in case of transportation of goods where both supplier of services as well as recipient of services are located in India. तो सर सेक्शन 12 जो आईजीएसटी एक्ट का है वो तब एप्लीकेबल होता है जब बोथ द लोकेशन ऑफ सप्लायर एज वेल एज लोकेशन ऑफ रिसिपिएंट ऑफ सर्विस आर लोकेटेड इन इंडिया, और सेक्शन 13 of the IGST Act is applicable when the location of supplier or location of recipient of services located outside India. Meaning thereby दोनों में से अगर कोई भी बाहर है तो उसमें सेक्शन 13 लगता है फॉर डिटरमाइनिंग द प्लेस ऑफ प्रोविजन ऑफ सर्विसेज, और अगर दोनों की लोकेशन इंडिया में है तो सेक्शन 12 लगता है. तो सर फॉर डिटरमिनेशन ऑफ प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई इन केस ऑफ ट्रांसपोर्टेशन ऑफ गुड्स वेयर लोकेशन ऑफ सप्लायर as well as location recipient of services are in India, the place of supply provision provided that in that case the place of supply shall be the destination of goods in case the goods are taken outside India. So sir, this provision has been omitted because of certain issues which were coming. I am not going into the issues which were coming. And similarly, there was consequent provision in section 13 subsection 9 which deals with transportation of goods in case where the location of supplier or the location of recipient outside India. So this subsection 9 of section 13 has also been omitted from the date to be notified later on. The another is no requirement to take registration for specified category of exempted person. तो सेक्शन सर अगर हम देखें सेक्शन 23 सबसेक्शन 2 वो कहता है द गवर्नमेंट में ऑन द रिकमेंडेशन ऑफ द काउंसिल by notification specify the category of persons who may be exempted from obtaining registration under this act. Meaning thereby जो गवर्नमेंट है, गवर्नमेंट हैज द पावर to issue notification to specify the category of person who will be exempted from taking registration. So sir, what was happening? There was some anomaly in this provision. Let me take one example. Suppose if you go to section of compulsory registration, which is section 24, वो कहता है कि if a person is making interstate taxable supply, in that case he is required to take compulsory registration. But if you see section 23 subsection 2, in under this the government has already issued similar few notification which are contradictory with provision of section 24. Like there is one notification which says that if supplier of services having turnover up to aggregate turnover up to 20 lakh rupees in a financial year, he can make the interstate supply of services also, and he is not required to take the registration. So the notification is conflicting with the main provision which is given in the act under section 24. So in order to remove these kind of anomalies, now the Finance Act 2023 has made an amendment in section 23 subsection 2 and added the words notwithstanding anything to the contrary contained in subsection 1 of section 22, which deals with registration, or section 24 which deals with compulsory registration. The government may, on the recommendation of the council, by notification subject to such condition restriction as may be specified therein, specify the category of person who may be exempted from obtaining registration under this act. Meaning thereby now section 23 subsection 2 is an independent provision and is not dependent on section 24. And in case if there is a conflict between section 22 or section 24 and 23, in that case section 23 will prevail. And this amendment is applicable from a retrospective effect, which is 1st July 2017. So I think it is a welcome step, because in order to provide the clarity and avoid the litigation, the government has made the correct amendment, and it is going to benefit the SSC, and lot of litigation can be avoided on this point only. Now, another is constitution of GST appellate tribunal and its benches thereof. तो सर हम सभी लोगों को पता है जीएसटी लॉ हैज बीन implemented from 1st July 2017, and till date the government was not able to establish the GST appellate tribunal, and the industry and the trade has been facing lot of problems because they don't have the appellate tribunal, and the cases because of which they need to file the writ in the high court, and it is creating the problem for the industry and trade. So sir, in order to clear the picture for establishment of appellate tribunal and benches thereof, the government has now substituted section 109 and section 1010 and made some amendment in section 114 of the CGST Act, so as to amend the constitution of appellate tribunal and benches thereof, along with eligibility, condition of service of president and members of appellate tribunal. So sir, if we see earlier, so in case of earlier scenario, they have suggested appellate tribunal, and that appellate tribunal was required to have basically 4 benches. First was a national bench and regional bench, and 2 other benches, state bench and area bench, and they have also given the composition. But now under the revised substituted sections, they said there will be 2 bench. First is the principal bench and second is the state bench. The principal bench will be located in Delhi, and in the principal bench, there will be a president, a judicial member, a technical member center, or a technical member state. So the state bench, it will be there in almost every state, and it will consist of 2 judicial members, a technical member center, and a technical member state. So this will be this is going to be the composition of appellate tribunal. So with the changes coming in this regard by the Finance Act 2023, let's hope the GST appellate tribunal is established soon by the government, so that some relief can be provided to the industry. Then another change is with respect to maximum rate at which GST compensation cess may be collected. तो सर जो फाइनेंस एक्ट 2023 में जो है वो चेंज लाए, और उसमें उन्होंने कहा कि जो कुछ आइटम्स हैं उन्होंने स्पेसिफाई करी, और उसमें उन्होंने जो मैक्सिमम रेट जो बेसिकली कंपनसेशन सेस का है उसको उन्होंने चेंज करा. तो अगर हम आइटम देखें तो फर्स्ट इज पान मसाला. तो पान मसाला के केस में फ्रॉम 135% एड वॉल्यूम टू 51% ऑफ द रिटेल सेल प्राइस पर यूनिट का इन्होंने चेंज करा है. देन they have made certain changes for tobacco and manufactured tobacco substitutes, including tobacco products, and they have inserted the definition of retail sale price कि what will be considered as a retail sale price for the purpose of calculation of GST compensation cess. So I am not going into detail. So you can go through the exact the notification. They have also issued the notification prescribing the various rates. So this is the maximum rate which they have brought in by amending the schedule, which is appended to the GST Compensation Cess Act. And to bring in force these rates, they have amended notification number 1 of GST Compensation Cess and amended various rates on some of the pan masala and tobacco, manufactured tobacco substitutes products, etc. Now, sir, let us come to the second part of my presentation, analysis of GST notification issued by CBIC on 31st March 2023. So, sir, this is the list of 10 notification which has been issued by CBIC on 31st March 2023. So, I'll be discussing each of these notification in detail in the subsequent slides. Let us first deal with amendment in registration under GST. So there are 3 notifications which has been issued by CBIC which deals with aspects related to registration. First is biometric based Aadhaar authentication for registration. So sub-rule 4A to rule 8 of the CGST rules, which provided for provision relating to biometric based Aadhaar authentication, has been amended now and now provides for the date of submission of application for registration in case where an applicant has opted for Aadhaar authentication. Meaning thereby उन्होंने जो है रूल 8 सब रूल 4.8 को अमेंड किया और अब उन्होंने ये बताया कि आपकी डेट ऑफ सबमिशन ऑफ रजिस्ट्रेशन एप्लीकेशन कब मानी जाएगी इन केस ऑफ एप्लीकेंट हु हैज ऑप्टेड फॉर आधार ऑथेंटिकेशन. तो उन्होंने कहा अर्लियर ऑफ following 2 days will be the date of submission of application. First, date of authentication of Aadhaar number, meaning thereby जिस डेट में आपने आधार authentication कर दिया है वो डेट, या 15 days from the submission of application in part B of form GST REG 1. तो आपने इन दोनों में से जो भी डेट पहले होगी that will be considered as date of submission of application for registration. Now second change is तो उन्होंने कहा कि जो प्रोविजन है, प्रोविजन रिलेटेड टू बायोमेट्रिक बेस्ड आधार ऑथेंटिकेशन एज ऑफ नाउ विल अप्लाई टू द स्टेट ऑफ गुजरात only. So it is on the trial basis the government has done the hit and trial, and initially they have made these provision applicable in the state of Gujarat, and these provision has become effective from the 26th December 2022. And if these provision goes well in the state of Gujarat, so very soon these will be implemented in other states also. Then another is relaxation under revocation or cancellation of registration. तो सर काफी सारे इश्यूज थे अंडर रिवोकेशन और कैंसिलेशन ऑफ रजिस्ट्रेशन. लाइक इन केस ऑफ अगर आपका रजिस्ट्रेशन कैंसिल हो जाता है ड्यू टू एनी रीजन, तो इन दैट केस एज पर द अर्लियर लॉ the registered person can file the application for cancellation, revocation or cancellation of registration within 30 days from the date of service of cancellation order. तो जो ये 30 दिन की लिमिट थी उसको 30 दिन के अंदर अंदर जो है एप्लीकेशन फाइल करनी पड़ती थी. अगर वो 30 दिन के अंदर एप्लीकेशन फाइल नहीं कर पाता तो दिस टाइम पीरियड ऑफ 30 days कैन बी एक्सटेंडेड बाय another 30 days by the additional or joint commissioner, or for further another 30 days by the commissioner by recording the reason on sufficient ground being shown by the registered person. Meaning thereby जो आपको टोटल विंडो दी गई थी वो 30 + 30 + 30 90 डेज की विंडो दी गई थी. जो 30 डेज तो थी वो जनरल विंडो थी, और जो अनदर 30 + 30 डेज की विंडो थी उसमें आपको सफिशिएंट ग्राउंड प्रूव करना पड़ता था. एंड the additional joint commissioner or the commissioner was required to record the reason ground for allowing the extension of application of for revocation. So this was the provision. So it was very harsh provision because in many cases the notices were served on the email and maybe uploaded on the portal, and the registered person forgot to see the email, and the email has not been delivered properly, or there may be some issue and the notice has been skipped the eyes of the registered person. So in that case, the registration of the registered person has been cancelled. So once the registration has been cancelled and the time limit for filing the application for revocation has also been expired, so there was a deadlock, and the registered person has left with no option, because there is no provision in the CGST Act to apply for application for revocation once the time limit has been expired. So in that case, he was required to approach to the High Court, filing the writ petition, and explain to the High Court, my lord, I have not filed for the application for revocation, but it doesn't mean you can stop the business of the registered person, and it because it affects the livelihood of the registered person. Because registration अगर cancel हो गया, तो he is debarred from carrying on the business, because he cannot collect the tax unless he is registered under GST law. So when he is not, cannot collect the tax, he cannot carry on the business. So one of the fundamental right of the constitution has been breached. So in many cases, the High Court has been given the leave. So considering this anomaly and the issue which is there in the GST law, the government has considered fit to increase this period of 30 days to another to 60 days, although they have not come out with the exact wording in the act. So the period will be specified in the rules, and in the GST council meeting wherein they have proposed this, they have mentioned it to be increased from 30 to 60 days. So the amendment they have proposed is the application for revocation can be made in such manner and within such time and subject to such condition and restriction as may be prescribed. So wherever the word prescribed is used, prescribed is to be prescribed in the rules. So this I have already discussed. So जो extension थी, that was only on sufficient cause being shown and for reason to be recorded in writing. Now the general extension period of revocation has been given, and it can be undertaken by additional commissioner for 30 days and commissioner for further period of 30 days. So let's see what initial period comes in the rules, and how the rules prescribe the period at 60 days or more, or after that the extension can be given by the additional commissioner or commissioner also without even recording the sufficient cause. So it is a general kind of extension. You can give the application and they can give you the extension. Now, the another is amnesty scheme for cancel registration. तो सर जो अभी हमने कैंसल रिवोकेशन ऑफ कैंसल रजिस्ट्रेशन की बात करी प्रीवियस स्लाइड में, वो तो फ्यूचर के लिए है. अगर आपका अभी रजिस्ट्रेशन कोई कैंसिल हो गया था और वो एक्टिव नहीं हो पाया है और आपको एप्लीकेशन फाइल करने की डेट निकल गई है, या आपका जो है एप्लीकेशन फॉर रिवोकेशन फॉर कैंसिलेशन रजिस्ट्रेशन रिजेक्ट हो गया है, या अपील आपकी पेंडिंग है, अपील रिजेक्ट हो गई है, तो आप क्या करें? तो उस केस में गवर्नमेंट हैज कम आउट विद ए एमनेस्टी स्कीम. Now first discuss the eligibility for availing amnesty scheme. The first is registered person who registration has been cancelled on or before 31st day of December 2022. Meaning thereby अगर आपका रजिस्ट्रेशन कैंसिल हुआ है 31 दिसंबर 2022 से पहले, and that too on account of non furnishing of return, अगर आपका किसी और रीजन से रजिस्ट्रेशन कैंसिल हुआ है तो आपको amnesty scheme एप्लीकेबल नहीं है. अगर आपका रजिस्ट्रेशन कैंसिल हुआ है ऑन अकाउंट ऑफ नॉन फर्निशिंग ऑफ रिटर्न्स, देन and registered person has failed to apply for revocation within the period prescribed under section 30, meaning thereby revocation की application वो फाइल नहीं कर पाया, then this amnesty scheme will apply. Or what will be the procedure? The application for revocation or cancellation of such registration has to be filed up to 30th June 2023, meaning thereby जो 30 जून 2023 तक उसको जो है वो एप्लीकेशन फाइल करनी पड़ेगी रिवोकेशन के लिए। एंड ऑल द पेंडिंग रिटर्न्स हैज टू बी फाइल्ड अप टू द इफेक्टिव डेट ऑफ कैंसिलेशन अलॉन्ग विद पेमेंट ऑफ ड्यू टैक्सेस अलॉन्ग विद इंटरेस्ट पेनल्टी एंड लेट फीस। तो जो भी उसकी ड्यू रिटर्न्स है अप टू द इफेक्टिव डेट ऑफ कैंसिलेशन वो उसको फाइल करनी पड़ेंगी। And no further extension of time period of filing will be allowed in such cases. And the application can be made by person whose appeal against the order of cancellation or registration or order rejecting application for revocation of cancellation or registration under section 107 of the CGST Act has been rejected on the ground of failure to adhere to the time limit specified under section 30. Meaning there by अगर आपकी कोई अपील भी पेंडिंग है या आपका जो है ऑर्डर हो गया था, ऑर्डर बेसिकली आपने एप्लीकेशन करी थी और वो एप्लीकेशन भी रिजेक्ट हो गई थी, उसके अगेंस्ट भी अगर आपकी अपील पेंडिंग है, इवन इन दैट केस आल्सो यू कैन गो फॉर द एमनेस्टी स्कीम। Then let us come to the taxpayers facilitation measure amnesty scheme for filing various returns. So there are 4 notification which has been issued in this respect. First is related to GSTR 4 and it says registered person who failed to furnish return in GSTR 4. Generally composition taxable persons are required to file GSTR 4 for quarters from July 2017 to March 2019 or for financial years from 2019-20 to 21-22 by the due date, but furnish the said return between the period from 1st April 2023 to 30th June 2023. In that case, he can avail the amnesty scheme. तो सर पहली चीज तो यहाँ नोट करने वाली ये है, पहले तो हमने लिखा फॉर द क्वार्टर्स फ्रॉम जुलाई 2017 टू मार्च 2019, तो यहाँ पर सर क्वार्टर वर्ड इसलिए यूज्ड है, अप टू मार्च 2019 जो जीएसटीआर 4 था वो हमारा क्वार्टरली जाता था, और फ्रॉम अप्रैल 2019 ऑनवर्ड्स मेरा जो जीएसटीआर 4 है वो जो है ईयरली रिटर्न बन गई और मुझे हर साल वो जमा करानी पड़ती है। तो इन्होंने दोनों ही केसेस नोटिफिकेशन में कवर करें, क्वार्टर और फाइनेंशियल ईयर। तो अगर ये है तो क्या होगा, अगर वो ये थ्री मंथ्स की विंडो में 1 अप्रैल टू 30 जून 2023 में रिटर्न फाइल कर देता है जीएसटीआर 4 को, तो उसमें उसको बेनिफिट क्या होगा, इन केस ऑफ नील रिटर्न फुल फेवर ऑफ लेट फी, और इन अदर केसेस मैक्सिमम लेट फी अंडर सेक्शन 47 विल बी 500. Now let us come to late fee for furnishing of form GSTR 9. तो सर GSTR 9 की लेट फीस में 2 तरह के चेंजेस आए। एक तो जो हम GSTR 9 अभी फाइल करेंगे फाइनेंशियल ईयर 2022-23 की एंड ऑनवर्ड्स, तो उसके लिए मेरी लेट फीस जो है थोड़ी सी कम कर दी गई है। दूसरा जो मेरा पीरियड है अप टू फाइनेंशियल ईयर 21-22 उसकी अगर रिटर्न आपने फाइल नहीं करी है और वो आप विद इन द विंडो ऑफ 3 months विच इज अप टू 30 जून 2023 अगर आप फाइल कर देते हैं तो उस केस में कुछ उन्होंने एमनेस्टी दिया है और लेट फीस का वेवर दिया है। तो पहले जो मैं डिस्कस कर रहा हूँ वो आपसे जनरल रिलैक्सेशन इन लेट फीस कर रहा हूँ जो फाइनेंशियल ईयर 2022-23 से एप्लीकेबल होगी इन केस ऑफ फाइलिंग ऑफ जीएसटीआर 9। तो सर अगर मैं प्रेजेंट लेट फीस की बात करूं इन केस ऑफ जीएसटीआर 9, इट इज 200 पर डे subject to maximum of 0.5% of turnover in the state or UT. तो it is very heavy late fees की मुझे 200 रुपए पर डे देना पड़ता है। Now they have made 3 categories of late fees from financial year 22-23 onwards based on the aggregate turnover of the registered person. तो first case is up to 5 crores in the financial year, meaning thereby अगर आपकी turnover aggregate turnover 5 करोड़ तक है इन फाइनेंशियल ईयर 22-23, तो जो आपकी लेट फीस होगी डेट विल बी 50 पर डे सब्जेक्ट टू मैक्सिमम ऑफ एन अमाउंट कैलकुलेटेड एट 0.04% ऑफ दिस टर्नओवर इन द स्टेट और यूनियन टेरिटरी। अगर आपकी टर्नओवर 5 करोड़ से लेकर इट इज मोर देन 5 करोड़ बट अप टू 20 crore in the financial year. In that case, जो late fees है, that will be 100 per day, subject to maximum of an amount calculated at 0.04% of his turnover in the state or union territory. तो अगर आपकी turnover is more than 20 crore, so in that case, the existing late fees will apply, which is presently applicable. That will be 200 per day, subject to maximum of 0.05% of the turnover in the state or UT. Meaning thereby, अब हमें जो late fees देखनी पड़ेंगी वो 3 पार्ट में देखनी पड़ेंगी. Turnover up to 5 crore. Second is more than 5 crore, but up to 20 crore. Turnover more than 20 करोड़. तो इस बेसिस पे मेरा लेट फीस डिसाइड होगा कि मुझे लेट फीस जीएसटीआर 9 के केस में कितना देना है. नाउ लेट अस कम टू द एमनेस्टी स्कीम which has been brought in case of GSTR 9. So sir, registered person who failed to furnish the return in GSTR 9 by the due date for financial year 17-18 टू फाइनेंशियल 2021-2022. तो उन्होंने सर सारे प्रीवियस ईयर कवर कर दिए, जो कि 22-23 का तो अभी रिटर्न ड्यू ही नहीं हुआ है, वो अभी जाएगा. तो उससे 22-23 से पहले के जितने भी साल है इन्होंने एमनेस्टी स्कीम में कवर कर दिए. बट फर्निश द सेड रिटर्न बिटवीन द पीरियड फ्रॉम 1 अप्रैल 2023 टू 30 जून 2023. मीनिंग देयर बाय इन 3 महीने में वो अपनी जीएसटीआर 9 फाइल कर देता है पुराने वाली. In that case, the late fee, the maximum late fee will be 20,000 rupees. And if there is an additional late fees, then that will be waived and he will be required to pay only 20,000. Now let us come to the amnesty scheme for furnishing a form GSTR 10. तो सर GSTR 10 हम सबको पता है कि फाइनल रिटर्न है, जो जब आप बिजनेस को क्लोज करते हैं. इन दैट केस यू आर रिक्वायर्ड टू फाइल GSTR 10. तो काफी केसेस गवर्नमेंट को देखने में मिले कि जिन केसेस में लोगों ने अपना बिजनेस बंद कर दिया, रजिस्ट्रेशन कैंसिल कर दिया, लेकिन उन्होंने जीएसटीआर 10 फाइल नहीं करी. तो इस केस में भी वो अमनेस्टी स्कीम को लेके आए हैं और उन्होंने कहा है रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन हु फेल्स टू फर्निश द रिटर्न इन फॉर्म जीएसटीआर 10 बाय द ड्यू डेट बट फर्निश द सेड रिटर्न बिटवीन द पीरियड फ्रॉम 1 अप्रैल 2023 टू 30 जून 2023. द मैक्सिमम लेट फी shall be 2,000 rupees. Now, let us come to another change. It is extension of time for filing return for withdrawal of best judgment assessment order. तो सर इसमें पहले आपको बैकग्राउंड देता हूं. अगर आपका रजिस्ट्रेशन कैंसिल हो गया है ड्यू टू नॉन फाइलिंग ऑफ रिटर्न, या आपको बेसिकली जो है कोई नोटिस आया है अंडर सेक्शन 62 फॉर नॉन फाइलिंग ऑफ रिटर्न, तो अगर आप रिटर्न फाइल कर देते हो विद इन 30 डेज फ्रॉम दी बेसिकली क्या है, दिस अमेंडमेंट हैज बीन मेड बाय द फाइनेंस एक्ट 2023 विद इफेक्ट फ्रॉम डेट टू बी नोटिफाइड एंड द अमेंडमेंट इन सेक्शन 62 सबसेक्शन 2 of the CGST Act has been made. इसमें क्या है कि अगर आपका रजिस्ट्रेशन कैंसिल हो गया है, रजिस्ट्रेशन कैंसिल नहीं हुआ है, जो अथॉरिटी है उसने आपका बेस्ट जजमेंट असेसमेंट कर दिया है जो कि आपने रिटर्न फाइल नहीं करी थी, तो इस केस में प्रोविजन है सेक्शन 62 सबसेक्शन 2 कहता है कि अगर आपने जो पेंडिंग रिटर्न थी वो आपने फाइल कर दी फ्रॉम विद इन 30 डेज फ्रॉम द डेट ऑफ सर्विस ऑफ द ऑर्डर, तो इन दैट केस the order of best judgment assessment will be deemed to be withdrawn. तो सर कई केसेस में क्या हुआ कि लोगों ने रिटर्न फाइल नहीं करी, अथॉरिटी ने बेस्ट जजमेंट असेसमेंट कर दिया, लेकिन जो है वो जो रिटर्न फाइलिंग था विद इन 30 डेज, वो रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन विद इन 30 डेज जो है रिटर्न फाइल नहीं कर पाया. तो जब वो रिटर्न फाइल विद इन 30 डेज नहीं कर पाया, तो जो डीम्ड विड्रॉल ऑफ बेस्ट जजमेंट असेसमेंट ऑर्डर है वो डीम्ड विड्रॉल नहीं हो पाया, तो उसको फिर अपील वगैरह में या हाई कोर्ट वगैरह में जाना पड़ा फॉर द टेकिंग द रिलीफ. नाउ द गवर्नमेंट हैज रियलाइज्ड दिस हार्डशिप और उन्होंने कहा कि भाई अगर वो जो है रिटर्न विद इन 30 डेज में ना करके अगर 60 दिन के अंदर अंदर भी वो रिटर्न फाइल कर देता है, तो इन दैट केस आल्सो द ऑर्डर ऑफ बेस्ट जजमेंट शैल बी deemed to be withdrawn. तो फर्स्ट इज दिस, तो जो डीम विड्रॉल ऑफ बेस्ट जजमेंट असेसमेंट की जो लिमिट थी फॉर फाइलिंग ऑफ द रिटर्न, दैट हैज बीन इंक्रीज फ्रॉम 30 days to 60 days. नाउ अनदर बेनिफिट दे हैव आल्सो प्रोवाइडेड, उन्होंने कहा चलो 60 दिन में भी नहीं कर पाया, अगर वो 60 दिन के बाद करना चाहता है तो क्या डीम विड्रॉल ऑफ बेस्ट जजमेंट असेसमेंट ऑर्डर हो सकता है? तो उन्होंने कहा यस हो सकता है. तो दे हैव इंसर्टेड द प्रोविजो in section 62, and the proviso provides that where the registered person fails to furnish a valid return within 60 days of service or assessment order under subsection 1, meaning thereby जो normal period है for withdrawal of best judgment assessment order 60 दिन के अंदर अगर जो रिटर्न फाइल करनी है वो 60 दिन के अंदर फाइल नहीं कर पाया, and he may furnish the same within a further period of 60 days on payment of additional late fee of rupees 200, meaning thereby 60 plus 60. अगर 60 दिन में नहीं कर पाया कोई बात नहीं, अगर वो फर्दर 60 डेज जो उसके अनदर 60 डेज है उसमें अगर वो फाइल कर देता है along with payment of additional late fees, तो सर ये जनरल लेट फीस नहीं है, ये नॉर्मल लेट फीस के ऊपर एडिशनल लेट फी है, मीनिंग देयरबाय जो सेक्शन 47 में जो नॉर्मल लेट फीस लगती है वो तो लगेगी ही लगेगी, इसके अलावा अगर वो एडिशनल लेट फी भी उसको देनी पड़ेगी विच विल बी 200 per day for beyond 60 days of the service of the said assessment order, meaning thereby 60 दिन तक तो up to 60 days जो भी उसकी नॉर्मल फीस है वो देगा, जो बियॉन्ड 60 डेज का पीरियड है उसमें एडिशनल फी ऑफ 200 पर डे देगा और वो फाइल कर देता है. एंड in case he furnished the valid return within such extended period, the said assessment order shall be deemed to have been withdrawn. तो order withdrawn माना जाएगा, but the liability to pay interest under section 50 or the pay the late fees under section 47 shall continue. तो definitely it is obvious जो इंटरेस्ट है इंटरेस्ट तो ऑटोमेटिक होता है, वो कभी वेव होता ही नहीं, और जो नॉर्मल लेट फीस है अंडर सेक्शन 47 वो तो लगेगी ही लगेगी. तो सर सिमिलरली इन दिस केस ऑल्सो ये तो जो चेंज हमने इस स्लाइड में डिस्कस करा, दिस इज फॉर द फ्यूचर पीरियड and it will be applicable from the date of notification of this provision, and it will be applicable in the future. But there may be a case कि मेरे केस में बेस्ट जजमेंट असेसमेंट ऑर्डर पास हो गया और मैं विद इन 30 डेज जो है रिटर्न फाइल नहीं कर पाया. जब मैं विद इन 30 डेज रिटर्न फाइल नहीं कर पाया, जो मेरा ऑर्डर है डीम विड्रॉल ऑफ बेस्ट जजमेंट असेसमेंट ऑर्डर नहीं हुआ, तो मैं क्या करूंगा? तो मेरे पास जो ऑप्शन है वो अपने रेमेडी की ही बचती है कि मुझे आगे जाके अपील वगैरह करनी पड़ेगी या हाईकोर्ट जाना पड़ेगा. बट इन दिस केसेस आल्सो टू the government has realized the hardship which is faced by the industry, and the government has provided the amnesty in this case also. So as per notification 6 उन्होंने कहा the registered person who failed to furnish a valid return within a period of 30 days from the service or assessment order issued on or before 20th day of February 2023, meaning thereby ऑर्डर जो है वो आपका 28 फरवरी 2023 से पहले का होना चाहिए, मीनिंग देयरबाय आपने ऑर्डर आपका 28 फरवरी 2023 से पहले का था और आप 30 दिन के अंदर अंदर जो रिटर्न आपको फाइल करनी थी वो आप फाइल नहीं कर पाए. The said assessment order shall be deemed to have been withdrawn if such registered person follow the special procedure as specified below, meaning thereby आपका ऑर्डर 28 फरवरी से पहले का था, आपको 30 दिन के अंदर जो है रिटर्न फाइल करनी थी फ्रॉम द सर्विस असेसमेंट ऑर्डर, लेकिन आपने नहीं करी. तो इस केस में भी वो जो है डीम विड्रॉल ऑफ असेसमेंट ऑर्डर मान लेंगे अगर आप रिटर्न फर्निश कर देते हैं बिफोर 30th डे ऑफ जून 2023, मीनिंग देयर 30 जून 2023 से पहले अगर आप रिटर्न फाइल कर देते हैं तो वो डीम विड्रॉल ऑफ असेसमेंट ऑर्डर मान लिया जाएगा. एंड द रिटर्न शैल बी अकम्पेन्ड बाय द पेमेंट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट एंड द लेट फीस. तो सर ये तो बड़ा ऑब्वियस है कि जब आप रिटर्न फाइल करेंगे तो अगर आपने टैक्स नहीं दिया था तो इंटरेस्ट तो ऑटोमेटिक आपको देना पड़ेगा, और जितनी आपने रिटर्न लेट फाइल करी है उसकी भी लेट फीस आपको देनी पड़ेगी. And it is irrespective of whether or not an appeal has been filed against such assessment order under section 107 of the said act, or whether or not the appeal if any filed against said assessment order has been decided, meaning thereby अगर आपने उसके अगेंस्ट, उस ऑर्डर के अगेंस्ट, बेस्ट जजमेंट असेसमेंट ऑर्डर के अगेंस्ट अगर आपने कोई अपील फाइल करी है जो पेंडिंग है, या आपने कोई अपील फाइल करी थी जो डिसाइड हो गई थी, तो उस केस के अंदर भी आप इस एमनेस्टी स्कीम का बेनिफिट, इस नोटिफिकेशन का बेनिफिट आप ले सकते हैं. नाउ द अनदर चेंज इज रिलेटेड टू अमेंडमेंट इन डिमांड एंड रिकवरी. तो सर इसमें मेरा एक सेक्शन 73 है जो डील करता है फॉर एडजुडिकेशन इन केस ऑफ नॉन फ्रॉड केसेस, इन जनरल केसेस. तो इस केस में इन्होंने जो एडजुडिकेशन की टाइम लिमिट है फॉर इशूइंग द एडजुडिकेशन ऑर्डर, दे हैव इशूड दैट टाइम लिमिट. और तो एज पर नोटिफिकेशन नंबर 9, they said extension of time limit specified under section 73 subsection 10 for issuance of order under section 9 subsection 73 of the CGST Act for recovery of tax not paid or short paid or of input tax credit wrongly availed or utilized. So in 3 cases में they have extended the date for the passing of order, and consequently the date of issuing the SCN has also been extended. तो सर अगर मैं एक्सटेंडेड डेट की बात करूं तो फॉर आई हैव टेकन 3 फाइनेंशियल ईयर 1780, 1890 एंड 1920. फॉर 3 फाइनेंशियल ईयर दे हैव एक्सटेंडेड, एंड दे हैव एक्सटेंडेड ऑल द डेट्स बाय जनरली बाय 3 मंथ्स. तो 17-18 की जो उन्होंने ऑर्डर पास करने की डेट कर दी है वो कर दी है 31 दिसंबर 2023. एंड हमें पता ही है कि सेक्शन 73 में जो ऑर्डर पास करने की डेट होती है उसके 3 महीने पहले तक जो है असेसिंग अथॉरिटी मुझे उसका शो कॉज नोटिस दे सकती है. तो डेट ऑफ इशुएंस ऑफ नोटिस इन केस ऑफ 17-18 shall be 30th September 2023. Similarly, in case of 18-19, the time limit for order has been extended up to 31st March 2024. So prior to 3 months they can issue, up to 3 months prior to this they can issue the notice. So date of issuing the SCN will be 31st December 2023. Similarly for 2019-20, the last date for issuing the order is 30th June 2024. So in this case also the SCN can be issued up to 31st March 2024. So friend, these were the major amendment which has been brought in and have been dealt from my side. So thanks for the patient hearing. So I'll be taking the questions after my colleague Pranjal complete his presentation. Now over to Pranjal. Pranjal.
Thank you, sir, for such an insightful and informative deliberation. Now I shall be sharing my screen.
Yeah.
I hope my screen is visible to all.
No, it is not visible.
Sir, is it visible now?
No, it is not visible. No, it is visible.
Okay, sir, thank you. So we will be discussing.
You can do the slideshow.
So we will be discussing the key actionables at the beginning of financial year 23 and 24. So first we will be discussing the GST compliance requirement for invoicing. So as we all know that GST e-invoicing is applicable for taxpayer having aggregate turnover above 10 crore with effect from 1st October 2022. So as we are standing on beginning of the financial year, so we need to analyze whether in any of the previous financial year starting from 1st of July 2017, if the aggregate turnover in any of the preceding financial year has exceeded 10 crore, so the e-invoicing provision is applicable to the entity. So we need to check whether our business is issuing the e-invoicing for the same or not. Secondly, businesses need to check and reconcile whether all the tax invoices for B2B supplies, credit notes, debit notes, and export invoices have been duly reported on dedicated e-invoicing portal and IRN generated with the QR code and digitally signed. And if it is not if the IRN is not generated, then kindly report the same on e-invoicing portal and take the necessary action in subsequent months GSTR 1. It is also advisable to reconcile the IRN generated with the e-invoice with e-waybill data in case of supplies of goods. So it is also to be ensured that e-waybill data needs to be tallied with the e-invoice generated data. Secondly, recently the GSTN has come up with an update yesterday only, which provides a time limit for reporting invoices on the IRP portal. Earlier, there was no time limit for issuing of e-invoicing on the IRP portal. So it has been decided by the government to impose a time limit on reporting old invoices on the e-invoicing portal for taxpayer with an aggregate turnover greater than or equal to 100 crores. So firstly, this time limit is applicable for taxpayer only having turnover above or equal to 100 crores. And taxpayer in this category will not be allowed to report invoices older than 7 days on the date of reporting. So the time limit is of 7 days. So for example, if a company has generated an invoice on 1st of April, so the 8th of so by 8th of April, the company need to get that invoice converted into invoice and get the IRN generated for the same. So please note that this restriction will only be applicable to the document type of invoice only, and this restriction will not be applicable to debit or credit notes. And in order to provide sufficient time for taxpayers to comply with this requirement, which may require changes to the systems, government proposes to implement it from 1st of May 2023 onwards. So from 1st of May 2023 onwards, company need to comply with this time limit for generating the e-invoice on the IRP portal. Secondly, if we come to the self-invoicing and payment vouchers, so in case of reverse charge supplies, self-invoicing and payment vouchers need to be issued. So it is to be ensured that the company has issued the self-invoices and payment voucher for the financial year 2023 till date. And further on, invoice series need to be renewed as on 1st of April 2023. So as we all know that a new document series need to be generated every year at the beginning of a new financial year. So since a new financial year is starting, GST documents like tax invoice, debit note, credit notes, and all other documents series need to be renewed as per CGST rules. Now, if we come to the GST compliance requirements, as we know that we need to reverse the ITC on any written off of assets or inventory. So before starting of a new financial year, we need to ensure whether we have written off any assets or inventory in the books of account. So proportionate ITC required to be reversed. Next, if we see if any company is doing the cross-charge billing, then whether the cross-charge billing has been done by the company for the previous financial year, that is 22 and 23. Next compliance requirement is relating to reversal under Rule 42 and 43, which provides the reversal of ITC in case of supplies of exempted or non-taxable goods or services. So it is advisable to carry out the final calculations of reversal additional claim of credit up to March 2023. As we all know that we calculate the amount of reversal on a monthly basis in GSTR 3B, but these rules also specify that the reversal should be calculated at the end of financial year also. So as per rule, final calculation can be done up to September 2023. But to avoid the interest, we need to get it done as soon as possible to avoid 18% interest from 1st of April 2023. Next is relating to GST on advance receipts. So GST on advance is applicable in case of supplies of services, and it is not applicable on supplies of goods. So in case of supplies of services, it is to be ensured that the GST has been paid on advances received from customers as on 31st March 2023. Next is relating to renewal of LUT. So as we know that a taxpayer can export the goods or services with or without payment of taxes. And in case of without payment of taxes, we need to get an LUT generated on the GST portal. So it is advisable that if a company is exporting the goods or services without payment of taxes, to get the LUT generated on the GST portal for smooth export of goods or services without payment of taxes. Next, if we come to the job work, so relating to job work, there is a condition that the goods supplied to job work should be received within 1 year, and the capital goods should, within 3 years. So it is to be ensured that the same is received back within such time period to avoid interest outgo of 18%. Next is relating to GST compliance QRMP scheme. As we all know that the QRMP scheme had been introduced beginning from 1st of January 2021. Still, there are many parameters which need to be taken care of at the beginning of new financial year. So if a taxpayer wants to opt out of QRMP scheme and want to become monthly filer, then the taxpayer having aggregate turnover below 5 crore shall have an option to select the frequency of GST return filing from 23-24 till 30th of April 2023. Post that, the taxpayer will not be able to opt out of QRMP scheme. Next, GST compliance. Next, we will go through the GST compliance requirement for input tax credit. If we come into the ineligible ITC part, as we all know that Section 17(5) of CGST Act provides ineligible ITC, that is negative input tax credit, which we need to, which we do not take into account while calculating the amount of net ITC. So GSTR 3B provides a column for reporting of this ineligible ITC. So it is to be ensured that ineligible ITC on supplies received during financial year are reported in GSTR 3B of each month. In case the same is not reported during the financial year, then it can be reported in the return for the month of March 2023. Next, we will move on to the recommended reconciliations for year end. There are many kind of reconciliations which we need to take care of at the end of the year or at the beginning of the new financial year. So the first reconciliation is relating to the reconciliation of GSTR 1 and 3B. For reconciliation of GSTR 1 and 3B, there is one thing is common, that is outward supplies. So we need to check whether all the outward invoices raised during the financial year 22-23 have been properly reported in GSTR 1 and taxes have been paid thereon in GSTR 3B. In case any amendment required, amendment may be of relating to GST and invoice number, invoice date, taxable value, taxes, B2B2, B2C or B2C to B2B, etc. needs to be done, then the same must be done till 30th of November 2023 or date of filing of annual return for financial year 22-23, whichever is earlier. So we need to reconcile the amount of outward supply shown in GSTR 1 with the amount of outward supply shown in GSTR 3B and the amount of taxes that have been paid by way of 3B. And if there is any kind of amendment that is required by way of in GSTR 1, then they need to be ensured and taken care of as soon as possible or immediately. Next reconciliation is the reconciliation relating to e-way generated with GSTR 1. We have seen many cases where GST department asked for the information relating to a reconciliation of e-way bill and the amount of outward supply shown in GSTR 1 in case of supplies of goods. So it is important to have a reconciliation between the amount of e-way bill generated during the year versus the amount of outward supply shown in GSTR 1. Also, there is a reconciliation relating to GSTR 1 with an IRN. As we have discussed that invoicing is mandatory, and for generating an e-invoice, IRN is required to be generated on the e-invoicing portal. So it is important to have a reconciliation between the amount of e-invoice generated during the year versus the amount of outward supply shown in GSTR 1. These are the reconciliation relating to GSTR 1. Now we shall proceed for the other part of reconciliations that need to be taken care of. Evaluation of capital work in progress. During the year, the SECI undertakes various capital additions, some of which are not capitalized but park in capital WIP in the books of accounts. Specific care may be taken on addition which involve construction or renovation of immobile property, as ITC is not allowed as per Section 17(5)(d). Actually, as per Section 17(5)(d), a taxpayer cannot take the ITC on goods or services or both received by a taxable person for construction of an immovable property to the extent of capitalization to the said immovable property. So if any asset on which ITC shall not be taken, so it need to be taken care of whether the company is taking ITC or not. Another reconciliation is relating to the ITC on the missed invoices. That is lapse of could lead to lapse of ITC on the company's part. So as we all know, the time limit for availing the input tax credit is 30th November of the next financial year, or the date of filing of annual return for the financial year 23, 21, 20, 22, 23, whichever is earlier. So we need to check and prepare a reconciliation of ITC availed, and whether we need to analyze whether there is any lapse of ITC on the part of company, or there is any ITC which has left behind to be taken. So proper compliance need to be taken care of before November, before the return for the month of October only, because 30th November 2023 is the date before which the return of October only comes. So in the month of October only, we need to take care of these ITC, and we need to show it in the return for the month of October. That is that the due date for the same would be 20th of November 2023. So next is the ITC reversal on account of Rule 37. As sir has discussed that a supplier need to reverse, recipient need to reverse the ITC in case the supplier does not make the payment within 180 days. So that need to be taken care of. Next, the very important part, and which is related to GSTR 2B reconciliation with ITC as per books. So as we are facing many difficulties that relating to reconciliation, that the GST department issues notices on the taxpayer that you need to reconcile the ITC as per GSTR 2A, 2B with books of accounts and all that issue. So GSTR 2B reconciliation is a monthly exercise in order to ensure compliance of 16(2) read with Rule 36(4) of CGST rules. However, an year-end reconciliation may also be undertaken to ensure all eligible ITC which is coming in 2B is recorded in books of accounts. Sometimes items are expensed out and does not enter into ITC register. So due follow-up strategy may also be planned for vendor whose ITC is not reflected in GSTR 2B. Next, we need to reconcile the outward supply as per GSTR 1 or 3B that we have discussed earlier, but that reconciliation should also be done with the books of accounts. So this is an important step. It would come handy while doing the income tax and GST audits and annual returns. So also it will point out the fact if there is any outward supply on which GST is missed to be paid. Next is the relating to the reconciliation of ITC ledgers, like reconciliation of GST portal ITC, like input electronic credit ledger or cash ledger with the books of accounts that we have maintained. Our last caution that need to be taken care of is the identification of the suppliers whose registration has been cancelled retrospectively. We have seen that the GST department is asking the taxpayers to reverse the ITC in case their supplier's GST registration has been cancelled retrospectively with effect from 1st of July 2017, and the company has availed the ITC on those suppliers from the supplies made by those suppliers. So we need to identify those suppliers whose registration has been cancelled or suspended for any reason during financial year 22-23 or retrospectively with effect from 1/7/17, and the ITC has been availed on the supplies made by such suppliers. So thank you all, and we shall proceed for the question answer session now. So if anyone having any question, then they may raise their hands,